I'd say maybe 6 out of 10 trees will die.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, I would like to officially call to order the August 15th, 2017 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission, and as always, we will start with a roll call. I am Brian Barabee.
I'm Jeff Bryan.
Jeff Lawrence.
Lori Stevenson. Rebecca Lundvall.
All right, and then the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public meeting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent filed by Brandon Ducharme for the proposed subdivision located at 649 Main Street. Public meeting held this evening here in Town Hall.
All right, Brandon Ducharme, Ducharme-Dillis, here with Paul Landers. How are you?
Good evening, Nora.
So I guess just to kind of sum up where we're at now, obviously at the first meeting, we went over and kind of presented the project at large. And then we've had a chance to have a site visit, a couple site visits, to go over everything and kind of just to recap what we discussed in the field. We were able to kind of walk the center line of the common driveway. We keyed out where both of these detention ponds are. Obviously, we're focusing in on, this is the 100-foot buffer zone, looking at this area that's within the wetland resource areas and adjacent upland resource area. We had Dave Burke on site who did the wetland delineation. We talked a little bit about how he came up with the wetlands. We talked about the vernal pools and this, what he's calling the kettle pond here in the back. We looked at the existing crossing. This is the existing cart path that kind of comes through the property. There's a stone culvert there. We talked about what the new culvert is going to look like with head walls. We walked through this area. We had some discussion on the wetland replication area. We talked about a few alternatives and kind of came back to why we had cited it here. That being, looking at trying to put this in the best situation to succeed, namely being by having the canopy, the overstory, to keep it as wet as possible, not subject to excessive sunlight. We talked about the open field here with the pumpkin patches and the potential migration of invasive species or other just even grasses, kind of taking that area over, which is kind of what brought us to this area here. I do have a revised set of plans that we kind of looked at this detention pond. We've modified the plan set to relocate this emergency spillway over to this side of the basin so that in the event that this ever overtops, it's going to basically provide additional hydrology to the wetland replication area. We looked at this area out in the back, lot 5, the side slope of the proposed septic system as it comes into the buffer zone here. We looked at kind of the kettle pond and talked about a couple options that were briefly brought up at the first hearing, which are looking at avoiding coming into this by doing a large sharp retaining wall versus having the 3-to-1 slope through here, which is a little gentler slope, and then revegetating this to remain natural. Based on the feedback that we got at the site walk, we went ahead and we revised the plans to basically wood chip this with clean wood chip or stump varieties from on site is usually a good alternative, and then plant low bush blueberry along here, which really isn't going to impact the function of the septic system. It's on the side slope. I think we have like 10 to 15 feet on center through there, and then placing landscape boulders along the limit of the buffer zone so that there's no future encroachment. So the end result is that once this revegetates and takes over, it's going to be restored back to a native natural habitat. We talked a little bit. We revised the detail. With this, it's designed to be an open bottom culvert, and just to naturalize that. And we talked about using on-site non-angular stones, which that detail's been added just so that when they come in here and install this, there's obviously going to be a period of time where, if you were to get flow through there, If that's unconsolidated loose material, it's basically, there's the potential that it's gonna, carry over into the resource area. One other note was just added just in regards to the existing pumpkin corn area, that is to remain as farmed in that way, just to kind of clarify that Paul intends to continue to kind of farm that. And really, the whole goal, and we talked about, minus the addition of the driveway, is for this front half of the property to just continue to exist the way it is right now.
What do you mean by open bottom culvert?
So it's a natural bottom. So this was designed in accordance with the stream crossing standards, which there's actually a formula for. It's a much smaller culvert there right now, and based on that formula, you end up with a larger culvert. It's 33 inches high, 48 inches wide, and we're going to put stones in there. So in essence, it almost looks like a stream bottom. So I mean, really, the intent of that is more with these streams that carry fish and wildlife, so that they're not trying to swim through a pipe, or but it's also turtles, salamanders, that sort of things when these things are dry. So by making it natural like that, I guess anything that's going to migrate through here, it's going to be the same as it is now, or soon. I think that's what I had for comment.
I was going to say, I'll ask for other questions too, but those were the three things I can remember from the sidewalk. Right?
And also, Brandon did end up turning on the USGS mapping to show that it seems that it's the back one is certified. It's
this one, as far as GIS, which is plus or minus anyway, I mean, it had the dot on the certified right here, so I think the intention is it's this one here. The question,
does it ever go dry?
Well, yeah,
it doesn't.
It's gone to mud. I mean, but it has been times with, I think the drought last year was the driest I've ever seen it out there.
Any other open questions? Did you have any other thoughts?
No, not really. I was concerned, just to note on the plans, about keeping that front preserved in its agricultural pre-existing condition as much as possible. And then, which I already talked to Brandon about, and then the vernal pools, but then we found that this one, or it seems to be this one, is already certified, so it would just be the front one that there needs to be some efforts made to get it certified.
To certify and determine.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to be the
That
steward
takes
of the
time.
land out there, the remaining land, the meadow, my garden, just the caretaker of it all, no intent to walk away. Eventually I'll move into the house, and but I really like the parts and the land there with my garden and everything, so.
And that footprint isn't changing, right? You're changing a little bit where you would need to plant, but are you planning to expand that out at all?
No, I mean, the driveway will come by, and this year we didn't go a little lower because it's just tired, so we'll just kind of swap it around, but we stay right about there. It's about the area.
I was relatively comfortable with it being existing lawn. It looks like it's been farmed like that for a number of years now, that keeping it as is was fine. As long as it wasn't expanding, because you're close up against the wetlands there, but I thought as it stood it was fine.
I would just like to clarify, just because we've seen it in other properties recently, you can't cut back the tree lines into the wooded area there without coming before the commission in terms of expanding the field.
Yeah.
Unless Lori knows otherwise, but after reviewing some of that.
Yeah, I have no intention
regulations,
of,
it seems.
taking on any more land.
He's doing agricultural work, but he's not agriculture for
Right.
farm maintenance of cutting, the trees back.
I'm not gonna throw that
General
out, but I know.
It's the vernal pool.
This one needs to be certified.
Yes, correct.
But that one, they're calling a kettle pond instead of a vernal?
Yes, so
well,
what
no.
they were-
I guess it's technically a vernal pool,
But it's just a
is
deeper
what they
one.
have it as, but yeah, it's,
Yeah, one of the big things with the vernal pools is the fact that they're vernal, they dry up each
Yeah,
year. So
yeah.
that's a unique feature, and really, when you go to certify them, and what we're saying is we're gonna evaluate this to see if it actually is
Yeah.
a quote-unquote certified vernal pool. You could have a non-jurisdictional vernal pool, meaning it's a pond that dries up, but in order to certify it, it needs to contain certain species that they identify, with frogs, fairy shrimp. I mean, there's a number of species in there that uniquely use those ponds that do dry up. So,
Interesting.
Randy, can you talk a little bit about erosion control and maybe some of the different systems that are available and where on site?
yeah, so one of the questions that was raised, we were at the planning board last week, was possibly incorporating straw wattles with our silt fence as opposed to hay bales, and really probably more of a conservation issue anyway, but one of the questions was seed migration out of the hay bales and that sort of thing. And we talked about it a little bit in the field, and, you know, in the area where, you know, all this kind of drains down and we've got, you know, one main pond here, obviously around the wetland replication area, we don't want any of the hay bales, but kind of down on this side here, I'd really rather see that the hay bales with the silt fence, just to provide, you know, a better physical barrier. The hay bales get keyed in to the soil as opposed to straw walls, which basically just get staked down on top of it. But certainly, we're not against, you know, doing the straw wattles, you know, all up and around here, you know, even over here. The way the grades are and the amount of drainage that's kind of coming through there, we certainly are opposed to using the straw walls. And also over here, I mean, this is all pretty flat.
Thank you for that. Could you talk a little bit about, and I'm comfortable here. I think, you know, we've talked through that enough and we've looked at it on the site, and I do appreciate the modification that you made. It will be the primary construction entrance, probably the floated road that is put in. What will that area look like during the construction phase versus what it'll look like when it's done? Is there in your mind, is there an intermediate sort of crossing design?
It's a great question. I guess the way I'd answer it, because I mean, obviously, as you look at conditions, there's an existing crossing there which works. I mean, obviously, we came in and out of there doing the soil testing and everything, but once you're talking construction, I guess, I would look to get that done first. You know, obviously, the first step, and as we kind of stage everything, is to get our erosion control and everything in place. And I would say, and we've broken some of these down where we've started phasing some of the tree cutting. You know, a lot of this is kind of outside of the buffer zone, but as we look at that, and a typical condition in the past has been, you know, prior to construction, the contractor comes in, because, you know, I could say do it this way or that way, but, you know, when they have plans, they'll come in and they'll submit, subject to review, a construction sequence, and they'll kind of meet on the site and kind of go over all these things. Because I don't know if they're going to stockpile the trees out here or whether they're going to haul them out, but the way this culvert's designed, I would think you could install it fairly early on in the project, and then you don't have to worry about any of that. And once you get the walls and everything roughed in, you know, you'll get that protection of the culvert. You know, there's less risk there. I mean, it's fieldstone, so, you know, anything that gets deposited through here can wash right through the stream. Which the other thing, just kind of even talking on that, because we've had these temporary crossings on other sites, and as we look at when we do this, you know, obviously you're going to have your erosion control in place, and there's always the potential that you do get a wet period where it actually starts impounding. Obviously, the silt fence and the hay bale is designed to allow it through, but if it gets wet enough, it can impound and overtop those hay bales. So if the culvert's in place and that was to happen, at least there's a mechanism with the natural bottom and everything we talked about that is going to be secure and allow allow that to go through without causing any damage.
As submitted currently, do we have all, you said we have a new set of plans, right, that has the overflow coming this way?
Yep.
Has wording on the flow coming in?
Yep, we revised the detail to just specify, and we specify the size, like 48-inch rock, whatever river rock there
Is there?
Yep.
Yeah. And the back of the, is there wording in it for the vernal pool study?
Not on our plans.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be something we could
Yeah.
put in the conditions
Yeah.
like we've done,
Yeah.
like we did for Century Mill.
Yep. And then as far as erosion controls, do we need to put anything in the exact wording? I mean, I think it planned out well as to where you're using the, where you want to go with the bales and where you think the wattles will be fine, but I just don't know how we...
Did you put in the detail in the new plan about the hay building silt fence around pond 2 or no?
I'm not sure if we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
That may be something that we would be able to write just in the condition,
Yep.
specific to the, well, obviously pond 2 as it's labeled on the plan. And then, do we want to do it at the back lot as well, at the toe of that slope, or no?
I guess if we were going to condition it to, the suggestion could be anywhere we have, 3-to-1 slopes. Maybe that's where we want to use the hay bill, which would be, here in the back and, around the pond. Maybe this section right through here.
Yeah, no, let me catch up with those. And then the other one that wouldn't be in there would be wording on field expansion or
Yes.
allowing the field to remain as it is without expanding.
Yeah.
So, other points or, go ahead, please.
We have 10 minutes.
We've got time, yeah.
Right.
We're in no rush.
And this is a big one.
Make Paul nervous every time.
I'm not making. Brandon's done a good job here. I think initially I'm resolved here. Honestly, I think, at least for me personally, this area here, I'm still slightly unresolved on. Only in the fact that, maybe for somebody watching at home, there's a lot of topography on this site. And, to sort of demonstrate the topography, you're 125 back here and you're all the way down to 105, all the way back down to probably 97. So, and we're introducing a lot of new impervious material in this line of flow. We've been out there and we've talked through this area. I'm resolved to the 3-1 slope. I think it makes more sense than the wall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes more sense than the wall. But I'm still wondering, given where the final grade here is of this house is 119. That's 20 feet above and direct flow to here. Is there anything that can be done? Because this is wide open upland, right? There's no sort of dense vegetation here longer term, other than maybe what we're installing as far as sediment control. Is there anything that can be done in this area to protect this resource? Because, at least in my opinion, this is the most fragile resource on the property.
Where is the drainage to the house going? Is it
Down the drive, so.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's kind of directed down this way, but, even as you get here, it's steep. So, obviously 1 inch is 40 feet. And as you stand here in the field, I think it's evident that it's pretty flat between the pool and the path. I mean, obviously, immediately adjacent to the pond, the bank kind of comes up.
A little bit, but yeah.
So as you look at the potential, I guess I would have a lot more concern if we had these steep slopes and then we were hitting, know, and it was really dramatically steep between the toe of this slope and the wetland resource area. In the event that, you know, say you did lose a side slope during construction, or is that going to carry over and then migrate down? It's pretty flat here. You know, this we're probably over anywhere from 50 to 80 feet beyond the buffer zone there. Is your concern more during construction, or is it once constructed?
Both. No, I
Yeah.
think both, and then I think, you know, longer term, you know, obviously, I mean, this project can be conditioned a bunch of different ways, but, you know, this is proposed along all the way to the 114 mark,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what I would say, because I think I understand what you're saying with this in terms of basically just infiltration of water before it gets there and how much water actually comes off the slope into the kettle pond or vernal pool. I would not say or encourage further disturbance, whether it be plantings between the limit of work there, which is a little inside the buffer, in the kettle pond. If anything, maybe add further vegetation to the slope in addition to the blueberries, or maybe stagger it in a way or add some other vegetation there. But I just wouldn't encourage it, because then you're probably going to create more of a disturbance than you would otherwise.
Okay.
But I think it may be beneficial to add more vegetation to that area if you're going to be doing some landscaping or maintenance anyways.
Is there a planting schedule for this? Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's pretty
Early.
generic in terms of, you know, we just kind of call up the shrubs, you know, 10 to 15 feet on center. And again, we were looking at it more from a coverage standpoint.
Yeah, sure.
It's going to kind of fill in natural-wise.
No, that's helpful.
So this is pretty hilly here, right? So it rains there and just
This is
Yeah, it comes down.
right down
So
the
that's
street,
basically
huh?
in the back of town
We keep
hall.
the basement, all right. 'Cause that's a big water dam right there, right? I
yeah.
mean, as the water's coming down, it's gotta go.
Yeah, so this is actually what's going to happen is they'll kind of grade up so that obviously it pitches away from the house and it's going to come back down around. So as you look at that,
Sort of panel.
yeah, and again, the other thing I'll preface is, you know, these aren't final foundation plans. You know, a builder could come in and say, hey, I want to do a different house, I want to come in here and, you know, do something like that. You know, the other thing I'll add is, as we look at the site, you know, obviously we've done soil testing all through here, and the material we found is, although rocky, you know, it's pretty well drained material. So as you look at, you know, the path of runoff and the quality of soil there, you know, I think you're going to get a fair amount of infiltration just as it works its way down.
So you were, I'm sorry, I wasn't here for the walk around. I had to think on that.
So,
You're the owner.
Owner of the property.
You know, I would just wanted to go out and, I noticed there's a cart path. Can I go out and just walk that?
Absolutely.
You don't have a problem with it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I haven't seen any of this and would just
Yeah.
like to actually,
And we have a house currently rented, so the great people, the Beckers, I just give them a heads up that someone's coming by, and,
Okay.
and feel free, please.
strange looking gray
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to walk down
Yeah.
the cart path just to, so I can actually see what it all looks like. You know, anyway, that was a question I had this
Yeah.
Saturday. I might do that.
You know, but looking at alternative, the only other thing that you could add, obviously, you've got the existing clearing for the cart path. You know, you could do some type of shallow swale here to, you know, so as this comes down, like it's shooting it away
I like
from
it.
there.
And this is your path of drainage, or at least anticipated?
Anticipate,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, septics are fixed, so you're definitely, you know, we're working around that. Great.
Can we plant, or at least have something planned here, whether it is that swale or the extension of the swale to catch? What are your thoughts?
I
What
think,
might be a
and again, we're balancing a
Absolutely.
lot of comments. You know, one of the things with the planning board was to kind of encourage to leave we're fixed on the septic grading, because obviously that's designed and then offsets and everything like that. And the houses are just designed to kind of blend into that, so it's actually a fairly level backyard here, so it's pretty steep here, 19 to 14 over, almost 80 feet. That's, you stand at it, it looks pretty flat, and it's designed that way, just so obviously we have a nice backyard. We're gonna have a low area kind of created here, I guess what I'm saying. Instead of excavating a swale, I'd rather just leave it as a natural low area, because the planning board kind of wants us to leave this wooded, and I think the homeowners would too, just to have natural vegetation between there. So the grading itself, I guess is all I'm trying to say, is gonna create a natural way. And if we can work more with the natural as opposed to creating a swale, just from a velocity standpoint.
And not to disturb this area, but at the output side, what do you?
Yeah, so honestly, you'd have, and again, a shallow, wide swale, not a narrow trench or anything like that, but just kind of grading, even if, whether you berm or just rework that a little bit, so that anything that does kind of sheet through here is just going to be redirected that way. And that's fairly straightforward.
Yep.
And it's near the existing path there, so you're not taking down a bunch of trees to do that.
Well, at least I appreciate the discussion.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Why did you pick blueberries? Pick blueberries, that's just...
Well,
why did you choose blueberry bushes?
A lot of thought.
Pick 'em.
Unfortunately, it's native. As you walk around through the woods, a lot in Bolton, once you get into the buffers, and obviously you get your high bush blueberry kind of around the edge and into your wetlands.
So it's basically, it's what would have been there 100 years ago, or 50 years ago.
In a lot of the forests.
There's a lot of blackberries back there.
Yeah, as you walk through this site, you can kind of tell that at one point it was open. I mean, there's a lot of, you wouldn't call them invasives, but successive plants and sassafras and
It's not a cart
things
path to
growing.
nowhere.
So
Yeah.
it's not like you're walking through like a pristine forest where you do have like those big canopies and like the low bush down below. But other parts of town, you head there and you get to the natural spots, and most of it's low bush blueberry throughout.
Anyway, I'm glad about picking blueberries.
Yeah.
Just I was curious.
So, with all the little small things we discussed tonight,
I need to add those in.
would it make sense for us though, and I'll put it out there to see if we have questions anymore, but would it make sense to close the hearing and then simply vote on it next
Oh, on the order of
time
conditions.
through? Does that make sense? We can continue it as well and just close it and vote on the order.
It's up to you. I think
Please.
including all of these, if that's what we've discussed and what else we'll discuss in the next few minutes here, are what we want in the order of conditions, I'll put them in. And in that case, I think it'd be okay to close and then vote.
Yeah.
Because that'll be what it is, but if it's up to the applicant really if they want to continue it or not, to sort of leave it open if they want to see a draft order, or if the commission wants to see a draft order prior to make sure that we can still adjust a few things.
With what it says,
But
which makes
those are my two thoughts.
Those are very good thoughts.
So from our standing, I guess, once the hearing's closed, at that point, the discussion as far as approval and everything is done, but I'm comfortable and certainly weigh in with everything we've talked about to close and vote on the hearing. I don't see an issue, and then obviously your discussion can continue as far as what the conditions would be, and you guys, because if it's all kind of around what we've talked about, it's not like there's going to be some condition coming out, that we haven't heard of.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
So just 2 minutes of, closing a hearing. So if you close the hearing, is there enough to build an order of conditions with what you have now, with what Brandon submitted tonight? I know one of the commissioners would like to walk Saturday, but is there enough to build an order of conditions?
Yes. So, just to explain to you, but also people at home who don't know, is the commission actually does have a general boilerplate order of conditions, and from that, each application is different in the fact that from that boilerplate, we take certain ones that are applicable to the project being proposed, but then also specific to the project, when other things come up in terms of the
blueberry bushes and all that
vegetation,
stuff?
yeah, very, very smaller but specific things, those are written in separate and on our boilerplate.
Okay.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I just, just for clarity, I mean, there's no danger in closing the meeting. It's if there was additional comments that the planning board injected, they seem like they had a few things, but.
And I was gonna say, you please correct me. I guess that would be the only real danger in closing it is we would put it together as we understand it, and we could vote either for it or against it. And if somebody changed their mind or for whatever reason, it could be voted against. But even if it's continued to the next meeting, that can still happen as well. But at the same time, it doesn't.
I see we close it. I mean,
We'll poll too if people are comfortable with what we discussed being added. If you'd like to look at it again after it's been discussed, because the other thing too is we could continue it and you wouldn't need to be here. Rebecca would probably be able to put a draft together, and if it went around, you were comfortable with the draft and we were all comfortable with the draft, we'd literally open the meeting, close the meeting, and vote on it, and you wouldn't need to come. You'd be more than welcome to come, of course, right. It's really either way.
Sometimes that's a better idea, that way in case there is some minor questions that come up on both sides, you can address it and it's all set. Then everyone has viewed it, so at the next meeting you can decide, yes. Do we have a count on how many blueberry bushes you're putting in and the caliber, the size? And is that the only planting section that we're doing?
That's the only planting section, yeah.
Well, then you have the wetland replication
Yeah.
area, which has a whole
Yeah.
planting.
And we have our whole schedule, what's going in there and the size
Yes.
container and all.
Yeah, so we can further specify the size container.
That's normally
Yeah,
something
give a
that's done.
suggestion, or 2 or 3 feet is typically what we would do.
I hadn't seen this planting plan, I just assumed everyone else has, so.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought on the wetland replication you had those specifications.
Those are
Those are-
specified.
But not for the.
Just you, I'm just
Are those
looking
high
at,
bush or low
yeah.
bush?
These are low bush,
Low bush?
yes. Yeah. Just given the fact that,
So like 1 gallon container,
yeah.
probably 3 foot, 4 foot, roughly. What were you thinking,
Section
2 or 3.
2 to 3?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's 2 places you can get them. You can go to like a nursery, and
Yeah.
they're usually a little larger, or like New England wetland plants, which a lot of those come from.
Mhm.
They're usually smaller, and they're probably, they still call them a 1 gallon pot, but
Yeah.
plants
So
are
that's-
smaller.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so typically what it comes down to in a situation like this, where it's right in somebody's backyard, they're probably going to opt with a little larger species, because, I mean, they're going to want it to look nice, so you're probably going to go with more of a landscape quality, which is
Yeah,
a little more costly, but it's going to look nice.
nicer, less apt to rip them up. And-
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the way to get into the house. I was just trying to figure out how they drove into the, but now I realize it is.
That's the one shared. All right. So do you want to just continue it? I mean, if you're okay with us continuing it to the next meeting, we'll probably do that.
Yeah.
And again, it shouldn't,
Never bring it.
if everybody's comfortable, you wouldn't even need to be here.
Get
It's
the
a-
order conditions read up.
Yeah.
And sent out, and then we're going to review it, make sure there's nothing missing.
and we can just do it quick.
Is
next
there
meeting.
another advertisement, or,
No.
No.
So that's only if the meeting's closed for some reason and then reopens without being advertised a secondary time, that's when you'd re-advertise. Because you're continuing, there's no re-advertisement. But if you close and vote, there's no re-advertisement either, because you're not reopening it. So they'd be closing contingent upon a vote or continuing.
and when would your next meeting be?
The 29th.
The 29th. So just to kind of sum it up, I mean, really, the value in closing is as an applicant, your project's approved. I mean, obviously, subject to the conditions they come through, but from what we're getting from the board, I mean, it sounds like it's an approval project. I mean, I don't think any, from what I can tell, and certainly feel free to weigh in, nobody's kind of against the project. The other risk when you look at, closing versus continuing is as you go to the next meeting, if there's not a quorum or something like that, when you have an end date in mind. But from what we know, but with this upcoming schedules, we've got planning board. It's probably beneficial, if we're gonna have the walk with the planning board, if we could get that done before the 29th, we can continue it, and if there is any other feedback from them,
I was gonna say,
and do that, knowing that we still have potentially two meetings.
When's the next planning board meeting?
Not till the 13th of September,
Okay,
so
that's fine.
we potentially have two meetings, so I'm comfortable.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll take your lead on that. Yep.
Does Natural Heritage need to look at this because of the pool?
So when they go to certify the vernal pool, which happens over time, or early spring, which it sounds like Dave's gonna take care of that, that application goes to Natural Heritage. If that makes sense.
And isn't that usually a condition that the project isn't signed off until the vernal pool is certified? And that's another thing you may want to mention into that, so it doesn't get missed.
And then my other just suggestion, sort of just as the application in general, I don't know if planning board will have anything significant in terms of changes, but the other benefit of continuing is if you go, I don't know when the site walk is, but if you go on the site walk, something significant does change that's in our jurisdictional area. If it's closed, then you have to re-advertise, reopen, refile. So it may be beneficial to sort of see that situation as well. But in that time, I have no problem drafting up in order of conditions.
Yeah. So we can go with either way you choose. I think continuing might be safer, especially if planning hasn't gone out there yet. Because like I said, that way you're just covered if they ask for a major change that we have to go and look back out at again.
That sounds good to us, because especially if you're going to work on the order conditions.
Yeah.
Kind of talk about, finalize that. And it sounds good.
And we'll just open it and vote on it, basically.
Yeah.
All right, so then, in that case, I would like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 649 Main Street until our next meeting, Tuesday, August 29th, 2017, at a time to be determined. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, so continue.
All right.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you for coming in. Yeah.
Leave you with this set.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Is this one
Feel free for Saturday.
Yeah, I'll just, should I just knock on it?
Nope, just park next to the barn and out you walk.
There's a car path that's pretty, is it?
It's pretty
Yeah,
tight.
it's
Yeah,
fine.
And it's, the only reason because I wasn't here when they walked through it, I wanted to do that, but I was just like,
I'll probably be weeding out in the garden or something. I'll be all right.
okay.
All right.
I don't weed, by the way.
Yeah.
Reading's relaxing.
Exactly. It is, actually. Therapeutic.
Sometimes, yes. It's very zen.
It's very repetitive inside.
You don't have the official opening statements.
So it's gotta
We
go
are.
over there and pump and
That's
squash it more.
Well, no,
We're gonna close it, yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we're now gonna continue, or
No. Well, yeah, you have to continue,
we're gonna,
but then we're closing.
yes. So
So we'll now continue.
the public hearing, and then we'll close.
Yeah, and then I'll just explain.
Yeah.
why, and then-
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think there's a lot of pushback on this project. I think it's mild compared to what they.
It could have been much worse. They're usually
Yes.
pretty good at knowing what we'll complain about and trying to work around it. They did a good job.
It was last meeting,
Um,
but still when I got home.
This is an interesting one right now. All right, so the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for determination filed by Megan DeHame of 670 Main Street for a proposed shed. Can we get an update on this?
Yes, so, there was an administrative error with the newspaper. The editor was out sick, so it was not advertised in time. Therefore, it's been advertised now, so it will be at the next meeting, but will not be discussed. So administratively, we will need to close and then reopen at the next meeting. On August 29th.
Said we will not be discussing this tonight. I'm going to make the motion that we close the public hearing for 670 Main Street.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So closed.
Is this actually a wood pile?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it is
Underneath
underneath it, yes. Yes.
I would suggest that might be something to work on.
So
Could be wrong.
then,
Let me get some of the shed.
okay.
Peaches.
Delicious out there.
What?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, because we were in denial from last year.
I don't even like peaches.
I'm with you. I don't go to Roy for peaches, let's say, but this year they have been, just because I didn't get them last year, I think.
Worth a mention.
And they're perfectly ripe too. Like they really just kind of, yeah, they didn't go bad right away. They weren't
No,
hard. It
it's
was like,
nice.
oh my God.
So use
Okay.
that just as an example.
Yeah.
But it's a requested certificate of compliance for
Yep.
148 Central.
Okay. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing in the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 33, to consider a request for a certificate of compliance for 148 Century Mill Road. Becca, do you have an update?
Yep. Basically, everything's in compliance. Their sediment controls are still up, worked very well. There's grass growing. The house is built. It's actually it's off of Century Mill Road. There's sort of a common drive. It comes up quick on you, I'll say that, because I've driven by it a few times. And the driveway runs right up along, but up gradient from a river, or brook rather. And from there, like I said, the erosion control's still up in place, been successful. Actually, very little even came across the driveway in terms of construction or pre-construction. And it's built, the lawn's stable at this point. Now it's gone through a growing season.
Any major concerns? In that case, I would like to make a motion that we approve the request for a certificate of compliance for 148 Century Mill Road. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Why do I get?
So issued. You're close.
It just makes it easier.
I was gonna say, every time.
It just makes it
I think
Take me here.
there's one that I get you.
The
and
only
then
thing
I
I
get
do is say
Because
second.
he's not close enough to
You
kick.
could have.
Yeah.
You can actually make the motions, which we need to talk about at some point in time. Technically, I should not be making motions.
God.
They advise against the chair making the motions at MACC.
Really?
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I should just be kind of facilitating the discussion and the movement and other people making the motions. We'll get there.
Whoever feels urged.
Jeff.
We'll get there. We'll get Liz back here.
Yeah.
We're just gonna type up some boilerplate ones that you could read, just fill in project as necessary.
So that little orange tab is
It's always good to share this stuff. It's a side of it.
What?
It's always been the chair that makes the motion.
I mean, it's not incorrect, but they don't
Correct.
encourage it.
Yeah. Because they were the ones, they opened the meeting, they closed the meeting.
Right.
They,
Motion.
It seems that would make no normal sense to do it. I don't know why they don't encourage it, but
I've seen so many motions over the years. Come on, you must be able to do it in your sleep.
yeah.
I still have to read the sheet to open things. I can't remember what 233 is the bylaw.
So just quickly while we're signing that, 104 is actually supposed to be next meeting, so I apologize, that was my mistake. My administrative error this time, that will be at the August 29th. And we have a site visit hopefully scheduled within the next week. I sent out an invitation, so I need to look at those in
Yeah.
terms of what's everyone's availability.
So we're not required to do anything with that action item right now, correct? We're not
Nope.
opening, moving, closing.
What?
Don't you say it out loud. You said it out loud.
I didn't hear it.
Good, all right. Did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes that Rebecca had sent around? If not, if people want to take a quick look now. I will say I got through about maybe half of them.
What? Yeah. Actually, you know, when the daughter was living in Colorado now, and she was a senior at college, they went to Bonneville out in,
As long as you know that that's good.
and they had a car, a Prius car that the dad had rigged up to run on vegetable oil. So they would pull into Chinese restaurants on the way.
Yeah.
Get this old vegetable oil, fill the car up and go on. They said, when she got home, she smelled like a French fry. Because I don't think she bathed for 2 weeks, but I mean, for the whole 5 days they were out there.
Probably not, yeah.
Probably not. She did smell like a,
I've heard about those vegetable oil cars, so that's the one drawback. Is
they end up
things
smelling
smell
like French
fries,
fries.
yeah.
Wonton soup.
I was in
Yeah,
the worst
could be.
things, right? Much worse.
Yes.
If everybody's had a chance to look through them, does anybody have any questions, concerns, error catches for the minutes?
Looks good.
In that case, I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for the Bolton Conservation Commission meeting of August 1st, 2017, as they have been submitted.
Just in case, a second.
All those in favor? Aye. So approved.
Tom Denny Camp shed.
Yes. Yes. They need an answer from us. We have thought, I mean, we've been out there. It's not an ideal location for a shed. It is really close to the resource area
And the main trail as well.
as people come down. Did we get a listing of everything they're putting in there?
It is, well, not from them, a formal list, but it's paddles, the lifeguarding spine board, I'm not sure the technical name for it, and a few other lifeguarding equipment, a small
Hook.
yep,
Hook.
and then it's a small, when she said file cabinet, I was thinking, we don't have one in here, but a file cabinet, it's a pretty small, almost like the size of a briefcase, plastic container for it. And then the life vests for most of them. When we were there on site, they said they probably wouldn't fit all of them. But also something that I brought up was just asking, what's the difference between having it or not having it in terms of requirement for safety standards? Have those safety standards changed where they need to be stored 24 hours on site, basically? And has that been the case the whole time and it just hasn't been done? And it was sort of that they have a few more pieces of equipment, and I guess now they have to keep those filings down with them, so that's something that has changed. But aside from that, it seemed to be sort of a, since we have them here, it's a temporary structure, why don't we do it type of thing? Which, it may be beneficial, it's not a great placement. And again, as I've said many times, it's on conservation property, of all things, where we have sheds going up, obviously, throughout town, very close to resource areas, or just outside of the 25 foot, which I think this one we calculated, or estimated, rather, was just outside the 25 feet, or a 25 foot buffer. So it is outside of the no disturbance area, which is a positive in my eyes, because at first I thought it was right within it. It is in an area that is basically pine straw right now from the pines around. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it.
Other thoughts? If we were to vote on it, would it be a poll vote? Or just polling the commission?
And to clarify, this is for the following season,
next
because
year.
the season's over, if not close to being over.
And was it sitting, I forget, was it sitting flat on the ground or was it on blocks?
Blocks.
Blocks. So
Yes,
there's
it's on
still
blocks.
movement underneath it, it's not suffocating.
Yeah.
And there's some grade out there that would need to be overcome to get that shed level.
Yes, I'm not sure if they were, just to that note, I'm not sure if they were proposing to do anything to solve that issue. But that may be something that they may realize in the future as well.
You're gonna put it on cement blocks, just plug it down.
It's on blocks and timbers right now. I would assume that's how it would be set up down
You're
there.
gonna level it with shims in between the block and that.
Yeah.
Not gonna do anything to the ground. Just
I don't know what the camp
Yeah.
needs to do in terms of structures. I would imagine that's fine because it's an outdoors camp and there's very minimal structures to begin with. But I don't know, not sure about that, if that would be allowed or not.
This is from like a time frame standpoint, it's temporary, right? So it's the week prior to camp and
So it's 7 weeks total.
7 weeks total. And then whatever foundation material is being deployed to level this will also be
take it away.
right. The
Well,
foundation
that would be the understanding.
wouldn't be left.
We would be able to write out if that's the case.
Does the commission at least have thoughts about maybe allowing it for next year under a contingency to see how it goes, to see if there's any feedback from property users or their process? One of my concerns is that if it's approved, then it would be just a year-over-year event.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the impact would be, not only visually, but from a property use standpoint.
I think that's a strong point too. I hadn't thought about that too, but it is a strong point too. With the area we're considering, which again is outside the 25 foot, but it's right there. It would be nice to both see the feedback, as people walk the loop and see how much of an eyesore it is, if it is, and also to see, after they pull it out at the end of the season, what the impact's underneath there, what it looks like. Because we have an idea now what it looked like ahead of time. But I would think if we do allow it, that's probably a good way to do it, is to do for next year's camp, and then just reassess again. That makes sense.
That's what I was thinking too. Evaluate it, see if it's.
They're not thinking about putting that in this year, I think.
No.
To my understanding, no.
No.
Camp is over.
Camp is almost over.
Yeah,
The
they,
2018 season.
yes.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably needs to be said. And the time that it goes in, and the time that it must be removed by.
Right.
Yeah. Pictures taken before, pictures taken after, just to see how it goes.
Did they send you a picture of what it looks like? Have you seen the actual
It's on
shed?
site now.
Oh, it's on,
Yeah.
yeah, it's up towards their sort of home base area.
So, it's not on conservation land?
It is.
It is?
It's on
It
the
is,
camp
it's,
site.
It's not in the wetlands. It's not
No.
by the ponds. Yeah, it's up by where they have the camp.
Which I'm not sure where that is, but
Just behind.
fine.
Yeah, walk through the field.
If you go for a walk.
Yeah, yeah.
You will
if go
stumble
there,
upon it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
I've
right,
been there, but I mean,
right behind the field where we put the
Bridges.
dog dispenser.
oh yeah, okay.
In the woods back there.
Woods right there.
You know it.
Yeah, I know where it is now.
So, would we be polling to agree to let them place a shed according to the conditions we've discussed? Do we want to write up like an MOA and then vote on that next meeting?
It's up to you. You can do it contingent upon what you just said. I'll
Yeah.
lay it down, so it's already
Yeah.
in place. Or I can create a document so then everyone can sign it next time.
Do it that way.
Um,
Because I honestly don't think they're gonna use it the end of this year, right?
Right.
We're fairly sure Tom Denny's done.
mhm.
That's not until next year. I'd almost say do it that way. Why don't we draft something,
Okay.
you know, with everything we did tonight
Yeah.
and to send out, we'll look it over before next meeting and we can just pull straight up or down.
And
I'm sure.
just, I guess for my own clarification, because I heard that it was going to be replaced. So that the shed that was going into the water, the site that it's in now would receive another shed.
Correct.
So,
So we are increasing the number of structures on the property
just so that,
in
that's
total.
clear. And then when the shed at the boat site is dismantled,
Mhm.
where is it being stored? Is it being stored off-site?
Off property.
I think
It
they,
is.
yeah, I think they said that one of the,
Yeah.
Does that include the foundation materials?
Again, that's something it
I
can
would
be
think.
drafted
Okay.
in the document, just to say
Yeah.
building and.
I must have been under a different, I thought it was just going to be one shed near where the boats were.
Correct.
Yes.
That there wasn't going to be, so the shed that's there now, they're going to move it to where the boats are?
Yeah,
That's what they're planning to do.
yes.
And
So-
And then
different
replace, and then
shed.
put
And they're
the
going to put
same.
another shed
Yeah.
and then back there, or is that what they're thinking, that they could get away with? Not, I shouldn't
That's
say
what
get
we're
away with.
discussing.
Well, that's what they're
Yeah,
proposing.
That's what we're discussing.
No.
The shed that they have now would.
Goes to
will-
the
yeah, would-
boats.
would fit the paddles, which tend to
Okay.
be taller, so they're thinking was they want to use that shed because they know it will fit the stuff they need,
Okay.
and then they
Okay.
can try to find another
Right.
shed for other storage. But that was my
That
understanding.
makes a difference, right? So then they're going to be two sheds on
It's
there.
gonna be an extra.
One of them that's down by the water is going to be, after the camp is over, is going to be put away somewhere,
Yes.
probably in the new shed.
Possibly, yeah. but
I don't know if it'll fit, to be honest,
Yeah,
but that's.
I don't know,
something.
I'm just kind of curious whether
Yeah.
they put the old shed next to the new shed.
And we can specify the offsite.
Yeah, so we're not gonna poll, we're gonna wait for the draft, and then,
Why don't we do that? Because that way we have something definite that we're voting for or against. And so with this one, we have time.
Yeah, and there's no, not to say there's no rush, but there's no rush, so maybe, I don't know, whatever, maybe Ellie wants to take a look at, you know, the final version of.
Yeah, to see if she can meet the conditions. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're reading my mind.
It's sad when that
I
happens.
know, it's too much time here.
Finding too much sheet.
okay. Also, fairly Actually, are we all set with that?
Yes.
Okay. So fairly quickly, I am, as I said, I think last time, just reorganizing some things in the office and looking at what properties we've hired individuals to maintain, specifically the field, so Bower Springs, now that we're on the topic, and also Butternut. And just in your packets, I noted at the bottom the cost of it from last year. And I can't recall if that was including the portion of Butternut that was mowed by private individual or not. I don't think the price would vary that much, but my question to the commission is, would we want to A, hire Jim Henderson again for this year, and then B, discuss with him an annual maintenance plan and arrange some sort of a contract for maybe up to 3 years, because it seems that we're happy with his work previously.
Can plan and budget better.
Yeah. But, so those are the two things, and it can be, if we want to discuss the annual maintenance plan further at another time, you can think it over, that's fine as well. But just in terms of this year, because it's sort of coming to fall, so we're out of the ground nesting season for the birds. And I remember that was a concern last year with a neighboring, or an abutter to Butternut.
Is there any milkweed or anything of that nature for that's usually flowering this time for butterflies, or that?
Yeah, we can double check.
That we might want to postpone?
Yeah, and that's it. So the reason why I'm asking now is to sort of account for those things, so that we have the time and not have him come until the fall. But just because I figure we can't call him the week before and say, can you come out here right now? But that's exactly what I would like, and even looking forward into if the commission decides to sign on to, or to draft an annual maintenance plan, or have me draft it. That's something we're looking into, and I just added some notes there specific to the migratory bird season, but that's also true in terms of pollinators as well.
I'm all for it.
And,
I'm all for it, especially this year. I mean, the growing season. I mean, he cut it last year, and it's a good thing he did, because everything has grown exponentially with all this rain. You know, I also think it's worth noting that I think you know, Rebecca's doing a fine job putting together maintenance plans for the properties, and you know, the trail committee is committed to assisting her in any way possible to make those maintenance plans a reality.
Huge. Yeah, I concur. I was gonna say, you know.
Is this the same guy that came in from like Sudbury or Lincoln? Was he from?
Yes,
That
he's
Yes.
worked on
Yeah.
Sudbury, I believe it was
He
Sudbury.
came in
Valley
here to
Trust
the
Properties.
PowerPoint presentation a while back.
Yes.
I was impressed.
He's
you know.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very.
I think he has a passion for not disturbing,
Yeah,
all that
he's,
stuff, doing it correctly.
he's not just
Look
going
that
in
way.
and straight mowing,
Yeah,
yeah, he has
just-
an idea.
Right.
He's a commissioner.
Huh?
He's a commissioner.
Yeah, good. And he's got a tractor, so we're 2 out of 3. As long as he doesn't hit the
So,
blueberry
yes.
bushes, we'll be all set.
I think that would be
And
great.
so would you like me to contact him as well? So when I contact him, and just being mindful of pollinators, but then also the migratory birds, would you like me to also request from him a proposal for an annual maintenance plan? Because I know when he had spoken to us with his presentation, there were a few options in terms of sort of a cyclical maintenance, or it's just the annual fall. So I think it may be beneficial to have, if the commission wants that on the 2 properties, to say, can we draft an annual maintenance plan for these 2 specific properties? What would they look like? Here's options A, B, or A, B, and C. Which one? And then it would be better to evaluate the costs as well.
I agree.
I think it's a good idea too, you know, just see what he thinks about it.
I agree. You know, I think
That way everyone's on the same page. Oh, this is
Yeah.
what you
Yeah,
get.
so-
Yeah, that's what I don't
Yeah.
want to just completely eliminate.
You want me to cut that? That's extra.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yes,
idea.
proceeding on both.
He did seem pretty above board though when he was here. I mean,
Previous
you
conversation.
made a motion on second, he was doing more.
yeah.
You know, and at least consider maybe invasives control
Yeah.
out there and one of the
Yes.
times associated with that, independent of the mowing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think,
Change the price.
yeah, but most of the time, I mean, you cut it once, to cut it, at least from what I understand it, or you deplete it once and then you hit it before the growing season. For certain species, because other species it actually spurts growth, so it depends on what you're looking at. There's a science to it.
Not for eliminating invasives.
Yeah.
Unless you're bittersweet, you just grow no matter what.
Yeah, it's
It's good
It's
as,
climbing up
oh,
the,
it's, yeah,
it's climbing up the canopy.
What is?
Everything.
bittersweet, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous to get rid of. Yeah.
So it's fine, should
Oh, yeah.
chop out most things.
You know, my next door is growing all between my house and the next door neighbor. She thinks it's pretty. I think it looks like hell, but
It's beautiful in the fall.
When it comes in, yeah,
Yeah.
it looks really nice for a little bit there, but then it just kills everything
It
else.
is.
Yeah, it's so cute. Switch it on.
Talks about.
Oh, yes. So, again, I will have the next draft hopefully by the 29th, if not by September 5th, in terms of rules and regs on conservation property, just sort of looking into and solidifying definitely not a leash law by any means, but just controlling the commercial dog walkers on the property that sort of cause a hazard to most other people. Or unruly animals, but they're dogs, they're gonna be dogs. Specific to that though, when I was looking up the migratory bird season and just associated maintenance proposed things to do in terms of to encourage different bird species or pollinator species, was specifically in the grassy areas, so areas that are tall grass anyways, which I certainly wouldn't let my dog run through, but I'm not everyone, just because of ticks. But one of the suggestions that I found was to keep dogs out of the field areas, which they're on the trails anyway, so I don't see a large difference, from May 15th to August 15th, because that's typically the breeding season and ground nesting time of the year. So it would reduce disturbance to the nesting sites, and they suggest nothing invasive, but just posts and like rope with signage just saying be mindful. Some beaches have it for I think it's the sandpipers
Yeah.
or
plovers. The
plovers. Thank you. I was gonna say I know what it is, but
It tastes like chicken.
but so that's something as well. I wasn't sure if the commission, as we're talking about maintenance, wanted to put on the property, and it's just really an encouragement. It's not necessarily a rules and reg unless that you would like to go into the draft of rules and regs. So that's really all I had for that.
If you make sense, I think I would start with
But you're
the
still talking
encouraging
about-
before the rules and regs. I think most people.
The dog walkers, you're still talking about one leash per hand, right? Wasn't that the
Right, so
discussion?
that's what the rules and regs is talking about, and it's not that you need to have your dog on a leash, but you only have one dog per hand.
Right.
Or if you have more than that, they need to be on leash.
Right.
So that doesn't exclude people, because
Or
I know
walking
some
three
families have
dogs.
3 dogs.
Right,
Right.
So, but that draft will be at the next meeting as well.
Okay.
Good.
And you have to have a leash for the animal.
Yes,
That's
so that's
nearby,
part of the
so-
rules and regs as well, is you have to have a leash on your person. It doesn't have to be connected. It can be a rope. A lot of people I know that are outdoors, men and women that hike a lot. It's just a simple rope so the dog knows I'm not running anywhere.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And if at least it can be, it can address, mountain bikers that are out there with dogs off leash.
Yeah.
Right. that is
Does the
what-
mountain biker have a leash on the bike? I mean, is that practical, feasible? I'll say it. I've been in the woods where a mountain biker comes through with two dogs, either in tow or leading off leash, and it is a precarious situation because it's multiple
Moving
things
parts.
coming at you at the same time. And from a yield standpoint, walkers do have right of way
Mhm.
over mountain bikers, which mountain bikers don't always yield. And when there's a bike and there's two dogs and they're all running in a column through the woods, it does create
And somebody's walking along with their little Yorkie who all of a sudden looks like food.
it's a dynamic situation. Yeah.
Any other fun topics this evening?
Jeff, unless you want
talk
to wait
about
until the
that?
next meeting.
We can. I don't know if
So-
anyone has had a chance to take a look at the maps. I mean, we can do it real quick. It's not an invasive.
Yeah, I don't, Laura, have you
high
seen it yet?
No.
Project, but I'll say that, we had partnered with Freedom's Way to facilitate the thorough walk back in June, which although it was a lot of upfront work, we feel like it was a highly successful event, not only to showcase the town, but the trails and the connections that exist between our properties from a sort of east-west standpoint. And because it was a success, Freedom's Way has already reached back out to me to host another event on their behalf this fall. Something that they would publicize and sort of organize on their side and deliver, what could be 20 people to a property where, we lead a walk to showcase a certain property and points of interest and sort of an introduction right to properties in Bolton. So given the amount of people involved and given the time that they're looking at and selecting a property that has a high density of points of interest, we've talked about posting it at Rattlesnake, showcasing, the lime kiln and the quarry and the cave, and it's also a property where we can park that many cars.
It's a solid
I think
point.
it's beneficial to point out as well, in the feedback group we received from the survey of the open space and recreation plan, community engagement in terms of lead walks, along with workshops and a few other things in terms of classes, were what the community seemed to want. So this does follow that as well in terms of there's a need.
Absolutely, and we're partnering with a larger organization.
Right,
out of
exactly,
line.
which is
So
another
it does
positive.
it checks a lot of boxes, and
Yep.
one of the things we had talked about, and Rattlesnake is set up a little different, as far as a navigation system. We do have signs out at every intersection that coordinate with map data. So we give tutorial on how to use your smartphone as a navigation tool. So even if they're not familiar with our system, an introduction to that at this property would allow people from out of town to explore other properties at their own leisure with confidence.
Yeah.
So I think, and I'll go back to parking, I think that's the biggest impact. We feel like, Trailhead 1 here could potentially hold that many cars. I would need to close it for event parking. Maybe with cones or signs or get there early type of thing. I'll not to put you on the spot, but it was discussed, and I know it's a busy time of year, but one of the angles here was that if we're bringing that many people into town, and Lori was agreeable to have them park in the field, then it's really, think about it.
What time of year was it?
This is October 21st, it's a Saturday.
Hopefully we're full.
It's high,
Yeah.
I totally understand it's high impact.
Actually, it's getting a little bit
Yeah.
towards the later end of it.
It's high
You know,
impact.
you could always
Yeah.
put it down at Slater's and just truck them.
Well, the thought was that if we were bringing that many people in
Yeah.
and we could park them close to the
I mean,
farm, that could be potential,
It is getting later.
Give them the coupon.
At
potential.
Yeah.
Give them the 5%, 10% off after you're watching. You're parked right there, yeah.
I'm working with you.
So consider it.
But,
That makes sense.
at that, I mean, during the busiest weekends, we had parking along the street, along the Orchard, which I wouldn't think we'd need that space at that point.
But you have a policeman out there too, and that doesn't, don't you?
No,
No?
no.
So it's a free-for-all.
Yeah. No, we're parking on one side, which is on the other side. But you'd have that along the edge of the road there, on the Orchard side.
Okay.
Which would get quite a few cars in that whole section, because I wouldn't think we would need it at that point. That we'd be able to utilize the field.
Okay.
But, yeah, I'll check the numbers as far
How
as
many-
busyness, but yeah.
How many people do you think could actually come along with this?
I
20,
think we could be 20 or 30.
20, 30 people?
I think we could be 20 or
Which isn't,
30.
That's a great time.
yeah. The amount of cars going, I wouldn't think there'd be a problem anyway.
Yeah, for maybe 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
So hopefully some carpool too. Hopefully.
So,
Sounds like a good idea to me.
an option, just purely for your consideration.
Yep, nope,
Okay.
I'll double check it, I'll let you know.
Okay.
I wouldn't think it'd be a problem, actually, especially right along the street there.
Sounds like a great project. It really does. One of these days I'll get out to one of those ones. I'm just gonna retire, gonna hit that dang lottery. It's
The
really
last one-
kind
No.
The last one was fun. I mean, it was, you know, and interesting. You know, it was a lot of things that you wouldn't go to the places you walk through. You know, it was fun. That's all I can say.
Well, so they asked to come back, so that's a positive.
Wow.
I think it was Jeff's excellent planning and prep work, to be 100% honest with you.
Compared to this time, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of effort put into the last walk and assuring that it was over public properties and not over private easements that weren't recorded correctly, and assuring that it was on properties that were maintained, and there was maintenance that happened the week before and even days before to make sure there were no obstructions. And then I think you walked the whole thing to make sure that it was timed properly as well. So there was, I think they appreciated the amount of effort and planning that went into the section that went through Bolton. I'm not sure what they did in other towns, but I think Jeff and the Trails Committee really outdid.
Takes a lot
The
of effort
efforts.
to party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go up, right.
Yeah. And it did. It went out very well.
Large swath of terrace. Yeah.
And nobody got hurt.
Always a
No
plus.
broken ankles or strained.
Yeah, that's insane.
Any of those kind of things. Yes, exactly.
So I guess as the event, as the details become available, you know, we can, you know, continue to assess, but I guess from a higher level event standpoint, we did want to put it in front of the commission for discussion.
Yeah.
You know, any questions or concerns? And, you know, again, I think parking is our biggest challenge, but we have options.
I think it's an excellent use of our public space. As you said, in the open space and rec plan, it's something that people were asking for us to do. It seems appropriate. It's just a question if the Trails Committee has time. And if they do, I mean, we can poll it, but I'm in favor of it.
No, thank you very much.
Second.
Seconding
I always do.
anyway.
I know.
So I would say yes, please. Go ahead and good luck.
All right, great.
Yeah.
I'll help you if you need help.
Anything else fun?
Yeah, good.
You sure?
I don't think
Gonna
so.
make something up?
No, I definitely don't want to make anything up.
Jeff Ryan, any poetry for us? Thoughts on vacation?
No, well, I had a nice vacation.
Reservations?
Drove Monday from here, 5 o'clock in the morning, to Mancos, Colorado by Wednesday night.
Wow, that's
So,
Jane, I'll
yes,
quick.
it was, and then we went, did some hiking in the San Juan Forest and big mesas, and went out to Utah to see the Arches. And I took a red eye home with some big guy who took over the whole seat. That was me, you know. It was fun. It was fun.
Well, we're happy you were back.
I told my daughter, do not try to cull the herd with a new car. That's what happens. You hit a deer with a Prius. Okay, the Prius lost.
I was gonna say, she's calling the Prius herd at that
Prius
point.
lost.
Okay,
Not culled the herd.
here's a good one for you to second. Everybody likes to second this one. I'm gonna make a motion that we officially close the August 15th meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So closed. We'll see everybody in 2 weeks.